Welcome back to the Groom Podcast.
Every time.
My name is Massimo and Stefano. We're here at the Franklin Theater, live at the Franklin Theater.
Are you holding your breath?
A little bit. That's what I do every time, because then I exhale and it all comes out in one. Now that you screwed up my exhaling, that's fine. I'm Massimo and Stefano. We're at the Franklin Theater in downtown Franklin, Tennessee, and this is the Groom Podcast. Who are you? To my right? Who are you?
I'm Brendan. Yet again, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I'm Brendan. I'm me, and I'm here.
How you doing, Brendan?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a fantasy draft last night, and it was potentially my best one I've ever had.
Really?
So, yeah. I'm rolling into today on a high. I had a win. I got a win last night. So even though I didn't win anything, it was a good draft.
It was a good draft?
Yes.
Although
I'm realizing that when this episode comes out, it'll have been like a month and a half after.
Not
when
that
the draft
long?
Actually. Yeah, a month.
Long enough. I wish I could comment more on that, but I have no idea what that entails. So
if you know, you know.
Do we have any sports fans?
Me. That's about
it. That's it. Okay. Well, today we have a lovely guest with us. My voice just died for a second. We got a little bio from her phone.
Here we go. We notoriously mess these up.
We need to get like an iPad or something. Because
we should get like a giant scroll.
It went away. Okay, found it. I found it. It's just I don't know where it went for a second. Okay. We all know how I do with reading. For you know Allison, because she was on the pod. Butchered that one. That was
great.
Well,
good to hear.
There was one I just stole from a website and then condensed it, and I wrote it down really quick.
Oh no!
And I couldn't read my own handwriting. It was bad. Anyway, we're going to graze over that one. From New York to Nashville, Amy Sapp has managed social media and PR for clients throughout the entertainment industry for 8 years. Her portfolio runs the... What word is that?
Gamut. Runs the
That's
gamut.
how you spell
Runs the
gamut?
Yeah.
Gamut.
The gamut. Yeah.
Gamut. That's what it is.
Okay.
Oh
my
my
career
gosh.
runs the gamut. Yes.
Oh my...
I'll start saying that.
I've never seen that written. Okay. Anyway, her portfolio runs through the gamut from NBC Universal and the Tiny Chef Show to Pixar Putt and the Tony Awards. Outside of digital media, Amy programmed Late Night at 54 Below for 6 years and now programs concerts at the historic Franklin Theater in Franklin, Tennessee. Amy was profiled in Forbes at 22 years old for booking and producing. Really? Okay, Amy Sapp, everyone. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you.
Here's your phone.
So good to be
That's
here.
awesome.
Thank you.
That hearing the bio reminded me. I completely forgot that when this year when the Tonys came around, you're like tweeting all night.
Yeah, literally, that's me.
That just reminded me about that. I forgot about that.
It's the craziest ghostwriting that I do. Is every year I have been very fortunate for the last 2 or 3 years to get hired by the Tony Awards as a freelancer. So basically, what I do is literally sit there all night during the awards and I post the winners. It is chaos. I have spreadsheets that they give me of all of the nominees, all of their handles, everything, and it's still chaos. So
I remember you showing me some of the stuff the day before in the office. I was like, oh my God.
What is this?
It's so much more than you think, but it's a lot.
And there's actually 7 or 8 of us every year that are on the Tonys live digital team. It's crazy, but I absolutely love it. And
that's crazy.
It's such a gift to get to work on it.
That's
so
cool,
awesome.
actually. That's kind of cool.
It's
When I
fun.
was in high school, we had a Tony watch party. And it was
Did you?
sweet. Yeah.
I never did anything
man.
like
We
that.
were doing Newsies, and it was a Newsies cast, and we were all...
You and Newsies,
Listen.
man.
What's wrong?
Nothing's wrong. It's just you and Newsies.
Okay, wait. I have a...
Go for it.
Go.
No,
I know you have a story.
I have a story. All right, this is a story for the podcast, and I've never admitted this live. Anybody listening knows this, if they know me, that my party trick in New York is that I have dated 3 Newsies. That is true. I am a married woman now, so I can share this story. We might want to cut this out of the podcast.
That's okay.
That's the first thing that came to mind. Is that was always my fun
That's
fact.
awesome.
Wow.
I know.
That's cool. See,
I can't relate at all.
I don't know where to go from there.
I was never seen Newsies. Never been
Newsies?
to. Never seen. Well, actually, I've never seen Newsies.
you haven't even seen
haven't
the
seen
Christian
Newsies,
Bale
really?
movie?
There's a movie?
You know they have a filmed concert like a filmed version of the musical you can watch.
Dude, Jeremy Jordan, Santa Fe, A4.
I did not grow up
Disney
with-
Plus. I think it's on Disney Plus now.
Yeah.
I think I saw Disney, yeah.
I'll
You
send
can
you the
borrow
link.
you can borrow my login.
For this,
Yeah, for
Yeah.
this reason.
You need to see Jeremy Jordan hit the A4 in Santa Fe.
It's pretty fantastic.
really?
Yes.
A4?
It's remarkable.
Are we
Yeah.
talking chest voice here? Or?
Okay, but you know,
It's a
Yes.
valid question.
Yeah. Basically.
who's my favorite in that cast is Ben Fankhauser. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
I can't
Yes.
think
That's
of his
a great
He
character's-
last
plays
name.
I can't think of the name right now.
Oh, now I can't either.
I know. I keep wanting to say Benny, but that's Rent. That's not the right musical.
Whatever.
But anyways, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, yeah.
He does, yeah.
I worked with him on one show at 54 Below where I used to work. And guy is as nice as can be, and he can hit any note that you give him. Like
He's
one
so
of,
good.
I
Yeah.
mean, one of the best voices I've
He's got
ever
a great
heard.
tone too.
Yes,
like,
he
it's
does.
So good.
We could, Brendan and I, Massimo, could nerd out about musical theater all day long. So
I'll just watch.
I'm sorry.
I know some, just not.
It's funny when we had
a lot.
Makai on. We
Yeah.
we generally talk, and then Makai would go on a musical theater tangent, and Massimo would just be like,
Uh-huh.
Well, Makai know me. We go way back, and he's been a part of, I think, almost every musical production I've been a part of.
Uh-huh.
And then, but he's done, everything he's done
Yeah.
on top of that. So, and it's like 4 times. That's
Yeah.
it. Like I did one of the percussion books for In the Heights.
Oh,
I
that's
did.
a great
It was really
show.
cool.
Yeah.
It was my senior year of high school, and then I did the Elf Junior book or something. I don't know.
That's a great listen. That's
was
Patrick
great.
and Paul. I love the music.
Is it Junior or is it just Elf? I think it's.
I think there's 2. You probably
Is
did
there
Elf
both?
Junior.
Okay,
Yeah, you
it
probably
was
did Elf
for
Junior.
a local. It wasn't
probably
Act
did.
2, but
Probably
it was
was
one of
Junior.
those.
Yeah.
And then I did Godspell a couple years ago, which is
Another
really
classic.
fun. And I think that's kind of it. There might be one more I'm forgetting, but that's kind of it. So I don't know anything.
"Did you do Chicago too?"
No, I didn't do Chicago.
Mm.
Makai's probably done Chicago, but
Makai and I had coffee not too long ago, and we
Isn't he
nerded.
the man?
He's the man. We nerded out over theater. It's like all I wanted to talk to him about. I was like, we're having a business meeting, but really, I just want to talk to you about like
Yeah.
musical theater and like someone who gets it.
I
Yeah.
knew you guys would hit it off.
Yeah, we hit it off. It was great.
He's so good. Anyway,
Yeah.
well, now that we're in it,
Now that we're in it, let's go.
how you doing, Amy?
I'm a little nervous now. a little getting a little red. I'm
be
doing
nervous
well. How y'all doing tonight?
You're doing
Today?
good.
What day is it?
Who
I don't know what
knows?
time it is.
It's mid-afternoon.
It's fine.
yeah.
It's fine. It's nighttime. We work in music.
We really do, yeah.
Tell me about it.
Mhm.
It actually is crazy if you think about it. Like the hours that we pull sometimes,
Insane.
Well,
redonkulous.
I feel for y'all because my segue. My first like concert job was at 54 Below, which is a venue in New York.
Yes.
And I was the late night programmer. And so when I took the job, I was like, that sounds cool. Like I've always wanted to be a programmer. I was very excited. I didn't realize late night literally meant it started at 11:30. And so my shows would sometimes go till 2:30 in the morning.
Nice.
And so this is when I was very poor living in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived like 15 blocks walking from the theater. So I'd walk back at night because I
Yo.
couldn't really afford Ubers at the time. And it was very dangerous. Would not recommend. But there's like some of my favorite memories of working in New York is like 2:30 in the morning. Everybody's asleep. There's just the city is quiet. And you're literally like leaving 54 Below and you've just like watched, some kind of Broadway actor perform.
That is cool.
Those are some of the cooler moments of
Yeah.
my life. Yeah.
That's actually quite a vibe.
If anybody listening doesn't know what Studio 54 is, could you explain
got-
it?
Yeah,
I have
give a
well,
brief.
I'm going to correct you. So
Oh.
Studio 54, you can cut this out if you want. Studio, I'm going to say that about everything that embarrasses me slightly. Studio 54 is the old club that was there back in the
Okay.
70s. So Studio 54, very famous. It's now, there's a theater called Studio 54, which is actually above my old venue, which is called 54 Below.
54 below.
But
Why did I
like-
say Studio
but
54
it's above.
below?
But-
Below? Yeah.
I'm really picking on you. So everybody does that. I'm just picking on you because I can, because
Yeah,
you're my
yeah,
friend.
yeah.
But
Come on, Brendan.
I know. But that's such a funny misconception because people are like, oh, how did the venue get the name? And it's like, well, we're under Studio 54.
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
under the theater, Studio 54.
Yeah.
And we're in the location where the old, like very seedy nightclub used to be. So if you, there's actually a musical, and I'm forgetting the name right now, that has to do with the old Studio 54, and it's very good. A friend of mine was
That's
in it
cool.
years ago off Broadway. But Yeah, it's also because it's on 54th Street in New York. So
It just
54.
lines up perfect.
Checks out. Yeah,
Yeah, you walked into that one. I'm sorry.
I did. I did.
That was on
I
me.
truly
I'm sorry.
did.
I'm
I
sorry.
truly did.
Okay, I want to go back even further.
Sure.
I want to go back. You were originally born in Florida, correct?
I was born in Florida. I don't know why I hesitated.
I don't know why you did either.
I'm from
It's okay if I
I
hesitate.
know. What's wrong with me? I'm from Pensacola, Florida.
Pensacola.
It's like northwest Florida in the Panhandle.
Panhandle. So how did you get involved in music in general? What was like
Oh,
growing
goodness.
up? Did something happen? Did you see someone? Like what was the thing? What was the thing that got you into it?
It's a great question. So two things.
Okay.
Primarily, and people who know me from childhood know this, my mom was a rock and roll singer in the 80s. So she was in an 80s band.
Who can we ask who?
She only toured in California and Nevada.
Okay.
So no one would know her. But her maiden name is Angie Barnes. She's Amy Sapp now. It's my mom.
Okay.
But she was in a band called Runner Runner, and then it was called Panama in the 80s.
As in Van Halen, Panama, or
And
no?
I mean, to this day, I'm like, why did you get these? And she was the lead singer of both these bands, and she was like, I don't know, I don't
That's sick,
remember.
bro.
Like,
That's awesome.
So my mom was a rock singer.
Yeah.
And she met my dad on an airplane. I'm going really deep here. She met my dad
Do
on
it.
an airplane when her voice had given out. So she was
Oh.
like going back home to Florida to recover, and she was going to go back out and go back on tour. And then she met my dad on an airplane back when they did it was a standby situation, and they were paired with each other. So they sat by each other, fell in love, and my mom kind of put singing on the back burner to get married, have kids, be our mom. So I had her growing up around the house. She was always singing Elton John. She was always singing, the 70s, 80s music, and kind of tangentially at the same time, my dad and her loved musical theater. So I grew up watching the DVD of Cats since I was like, and Brendan and I can get into this. This was like
I had the DVD of Cats as
You
a kid
did?
too. Yeah.
and I'm not even kidding you. It changed my life. Like I can tell you that Mr. Mistopheles, my favorite character, was played by Jacob Brent. Jacob Brent is literally still a theater director and choreographer. I love that cast. They are phenomenal.
Wow.
And so that's a little kind of glimpse into how I got into just how I was introduced to all of it. And then kind of my own personal journey with music. I grew up doing musical theater. I remember being like 7 or 8 and just going to my mom saying, I want to be in acting lessons. And she was like, what? Great. But it was like right before school started. So she had to really rush and find like a studio for me to join. And I did musical theater lessons until I was in, I think, 8th grade. And I was like Cinderella in Cinderella. And then the next year I was a Munchkin in the Wizard of Oz. So I had like quite a career in local community theater. I the highest of the highs. And they were like, Munchkin. And I was like, I was in Wizard of Oz. I was a Munchkin in a tree. So I was like a face in a tree. It was a time to be alive. And so that's my journey of like performing in music, in anything with music, musical theater. But I was never someone that wanted to be like a singer. There was like a very small point in time where I was like, maybe I can be an actor, but I was never good enough. I kind of knew I wasn't good enough. So I was like, I'm really good at school. I'm like really good at school. So I was like, you know what I'm going to do in high school? I kind of pivoted and got into debate. So I joined, when I was a freshman, joined our mock trial team. So it's called mock trial. And I did that for 4 years. I was ranked top 7 in the nation when I was a senior. I was like top attorney and like debater in Florida for 2 years, things like that. Or
that's awesome.
2012. Yeah, in 2012. So I was like really into that. And so that kind of became my theater journey was like, because it had to do with theater in school. So I was like, oh, it's academic, but it's really just acting. It's just thinking on your feet and acting. So that's kind of my...
That's a good correlation of the two.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah. And so it showed me very early that I liked speaking in front of people. I liked a field that was kind of smart. And I actually, throwback, that's how I met Allison Bailey, who you guys had on the podcast.
Yes.
Shout out Allison.
Shout out Allison in her episode. So Allison, who is most famously known for being in Wicked on the national tour for 6 years as Glinda, and then she was on Broadway for a little bit as Glinda. She's one of my best friends, and we were on the debate team together when I was a freshman and she was a senior.
That's
so
awesome.
she was like who I looked up to. So like,
Yeah.
I wanted to be like her. And so it's very funny that we both are the people from my high school that like ended up, there's actually a couple of us that ended up working in theater to some degree.
That's cool.
But we are the two that like came out of debate world and like entered Broadway at the same time. So
That's awesome.
yeah. That was a long,
cool.
that's like all my background, but that's how I got
That's
here.
cool.
No,
though.
that's
my
great.
background.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We end the podcast right there.
I know. I'm like, well, that was great, guys. I'll see you later. See you later.
That is actually like the way that the debate team thing actually
Yeah.
ties into like acting and even just like
It
being
makes sense.
is actually
Mhm.
it makes a lot of sense.
It makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense.
And I hate to say this, but it's how my brain worked. I was like, okay, if I want to do something serious. I was like, okay, I think debate is more serious than acting. And I would like go back to that version of myself 12, 13 years ago and challenge that thought. And I'm really like
Because
proud.
you're a debater.
Because I'm a debater. Well, wow. No, because I think it was interesting in that it like pushed me into the direction I went, but I think it was false. And it's been very cool as other generations come up. I see people kind of put that notion aside. And I'm really proud of newer generations. I'm a little bit older than y'all, not by a little bit.
A little bit.
And even y'all's age of like, you work in the music industry. Y'all are both very like trained in what you do and very talented at what you do. Seriously, you guys also know off air, I have said the same to you too, that I'm very proud of the direction that both of you have gone. Because I think that unlike what I thought growing up, there are so many directions you can take. And it kind of took me like having some pitfalls when I was getting older to discover that. Whereas y'all kind of just instinctively took risks. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, no, I remember getting out of high school. I was like, there's so much.
Yeah, seriously.
It's like I don't know. You have to do stuff, and then
COVID kind of forced my hand to not take Plan B.
Yeah.
Because I was just
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
go to Michigan State and like be on
It's
the
a great
drum line
school.
and
Yeah.
minor in audio engineering and be like a teacher
so
and
cool.
kind of not like it and then just do
Kinda
audio on
not
the
like
side.
it.
COVID happened. I was like, I don't want to be in debt for this. And then my
Yeah.
mom found the school. I was like, sign me up.
Actually, you know who told me the Plan A, Plan B thing?
Mhm.
It was Lisa Cimarelli.
Really?
I was at some party, and I know the
Yeah.
Cimarellis. I used to know them really well. Now I don't see them as much. But
Sure.
I was talking to. This was like while I was in high school or just out of high school. I can't remember. And I mentioned something about just like I don't know, like I want to do music, but I feel like I need to have something. I don't actually. I said I don't want to have something that I do otherwise because I just. What's the point? I know I want to do this.
Yeah.
She's like, well, I feel like if you have a Plan A and a Plan B, you're just going to end up doing Plan B.
Ooh, that's really good
I'm
advice.
paraphrasing, but that's the gist of what she was like. If you have both, you're always going to pick Plan B because it's safer.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's a.
I would argue she's right.
Oh no, she is
She's
right.
spot on. Yeah.
And it's working so far.
Yeah, no,
far,
for
so
both
good.
of you. I'm really proud of what both of y'all have done. That's great advice.
But that's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So
It's my
then you
story.
get to New York. You're doing the 54. Deal.
Well, so where'd you go to college at?
Oh, that's a
Yeah,
great
so
question.
I-
Oh no, you don't. It's on her car, man.
It's on my car. You parked next to me. No, I'm kidding. It's okay. So I went to the University of Florida. Go Gators.
I knew that actually.
You did know that. Go
Gators.
Gators. I went to the University of Florida for political science because in doing debate for so many years, and I was very convinced I was going to go to law school. So I was like, this is the right option. It's the thing to do. I never changed my major in college. I was always political science. But I specialized in international relations because, and I can talk about it now because it didn't happen. I really wanted to be in the FBI. And I was like,
Whoa,
That's cool.
yeah.
sick.
And so I studied like foreign policy. I tried to get internships with the FBI and the CIA, and I was constantly told no. And I kept trying to get in. I took Arabic. Like I was
Whoa.
terrible. I can say like, Ana Ismi Amira, which means my name is Princess, because that's what my literal teacher nicknamed me because I was so bad at
Whoa.
Arabic.
That is so funny.
But it's hilarious.
Do you know
It
what
was
Anna-
kind of mean, but she's like,
Kind
I
of
love her so
demeaning a
much.
little bit,
I
like-
love her so much.
You got it,
Princess.
princess.
I know she would be like, because I was blonde and I was like very like skinny and petite in college. So she was like, Princess.
I
And
just
was
didn't
like,
think that was the sentence you're going to be saying.
my
in
name
there.
my name is Princess. And I was like, okay. Yeah. And so all that to be said, I really tried. And I really, like, when I tell you I like really tried to get into, my final degree was like political science with a focus on international relations. I really wanted to be in the CIA or the FBI very badly.
Yeah.
And I kept applying all these internships. I got in, I worked on Capitol Hill for my congressman for one summer. I was 18, loved it. I was like the intern that would respond to all of his letters. So fun fact, if you write to like your congressperson, it's usually an intern responding to you. And so I would, but through that, I like learned, so my congressman at the time was the head of the VA affairs. And so we would have a lot of lobbyists come into the office and like talk to us about veterans affairs and all these things I knew nothing about. So I learned very quickly, like, okay, wow, there's a lot I don't know about. I'm not really interested in domestic politics. I really want international politics. All that to be said, I kept applying after that internship and I kept getting rejected. But I, on a whim, applied to Disney and I applied to Good Morning America because they had a political division. So I was like, all right, I'm going to give it a go. And they interviewed me and picked me. And to this day, I have no idea why. I wasn't a television major. I don't know why they did this. My senior producer was like, I don't know, you had Capitol Hill experience and you looked different. Like you just looked different. So we were like, we'll take a chance on her. Best experience of my life. Yeah. And I'm still friends with nearly every one of those producers that I interned for. But as I was kind of faced with a decision, I was supposed to either be the research assistant for my professor in college or take this internship. And I told my professor, who was my mentor, I was like, I can't leave you. Like it was during the spring semester. So I was like, I can't leave you. I'm supposed to be your research assistant. And she looked at me, put her hand like on my knee and goes, Amy, in a very thick Bosnian accent, she was like, Amy, you are too nice for this field. And I was like, what? And she said, and she kind of sighed and she said, don't do it. You need to follow journalism. Like journalism is calling you, go. And she said, you're going to hate your life if you go down this intelligence route. And I was like, what? And that, and I think it's crazy. And I think a lot of people, I've told that story to, and a lot of like women especially, it's kind of funny. They're like, oh, did you stand up to her? Did you say no? And I was like, no, because she knew me so well. It wasn't in a mean way. And it was the best advice I ever got because she like knew my character so much that she was like, your true self is just going to get stifled and like, don't do it. And I was like, okay. So I went to DC that spring semester. Long way to tell you that I went to DC, worked for Good Morning America, fell in love with it. And while I was there, they gave me a couple opportunities to write some stories for them for like digital. Yeah. And there was, at the time, Frozen was very big in the media, obviously. Nice. So I was a freshman in college when Frozen came out, aging myself. And when I was working at an internship, basically they said, if you can get an exclusive, a quote from a senator, then you can do a story. And so at the time, there was a very big story going around Capitol Hill where the senator's phone went off and it was the Frozen Let It Go like song.
No way.
And so it was really famous. Whoa. So I stalked this poor senator. I didn't stalk him. I like knew when a session was letting out and like ran after this senator or a congressperson, excuse me, and said, sir, like I'm going to get an exclusive quote from this guy about, have you heard there's a Broadway musical coming out? It's about Frozen. And to this day, there lives on the internet an article that I wrote for ABC News about this guy giving a quote, a senator giving a quote about Frozen becoming a musical. Awesome. It is the most random thing ever.
Did he give you a good quote?
He gave me a great quote. It was something about like, and I still have the voice note on my phone. It was something about like, oh, my grandkids like, oh, they love Frozen. I'm the best grandpa. And it was the sweetest thing.
Oh, that's nice.
It was so
nice.
sweet. And so I took it to my editor and they were like, you did it? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, okay. And then I wrote the article. They let me publish it. It still lives on the internet. I think it's on my website still somewhere.
That's awesome.
But all that to be said, I'm a talker. That's a long way to yap and tell you that I had a few people at that internship tell me like, hey, you're a pretty good writer. Like you should really like consider writing. And they also mentioned I kept writing entertainment pieces with a political agenda, almost like a political theme. Yeah. And so they were like, you should really consider journalism instead. And so at that point I was like, okay, I think this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a long story.
Wow.
No, but I think that's really important because like, you know, if you're a teacher, because my dad was a teacher, he always talked about like, you got to like play to the students, like their gifts and what they're good at. And being the one teacher be like to go up to you, even though like you guys may have had a good rapport, teacher student still teacher student.
Yeah.
I mean like, hey, don't do it.
Don't.
shout out to that teacher.
Yeah.
And
Shout
then
out to
good
that
on you
teacher.
for actually being like, okay, let me take this
Yes.
advice. This third party advice that I otherwise like I wouldn't see myself.
Right.
You know, like you
Thank
need
you.
someone to tell. I'm not way too. I need someone to tell me, hey, you're being a schmuck or
Yeah,
whatever.
truly.
Not that that's the situation you're in, but just that's me.
No, I kind of was. And she actually recently, I think I posted about our ACM nomination for the theater. And she actually commented and said, because I don't talk to her very often, but she commented on Facebook and was like, I am so proud of you. Like, you just keep going. I get like very emotional.
Yeah,
because
that's awesome.
she still follows my journey. And anyways, it means a lot to me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's
so
a long way
great.
to say, like, I am a programming director for a theater. Like how
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got, it's, you can really do anything and end up
Yeah.
where you're supposed to be, I think.
That's so
That's
cool.
awesome.
That's
Yeah.
such a cool like. Oh, let's do this. So let's
I
do
did,
this.
and now I'm here. Yeah,
Almost
yeah.
in the FBI.
Yeah, well, I really wanted it. I wasn't almost there,
Yeah.
to be clear.
Yeah,
now that
yeah.
I've said it so many times that I wanted it, I'm like, yeah, I'm off their list. They're like, she cannot do this.
Yeah.
Like,
No, thank you.
She's
No,
actually on the
no, thank you.
blacklist now.
yes,
you can't
actually,
even.
someone, I was being interviewed for some story, and I said that, and they were like, but what if this is a ruse? What if you are in the FBI and this is your cover? And I was like,
Ooh.
I'd be either really good or really bad at my job. Like, one of the two.
I
So-
like the conspiracy
hilarious.
theorists.
I know, I do
like,
too. I liked it.
Or are you a spy?
Or are you
Ooh.
playing us right now?
Although, what are you trying to get the Franklin Theater secrets?
Yeah, I'm trying to get the secrets of the ghost Betsy. That's what I'm trying to figure out. She's here.
Oh, well, we just recently had Richard on, so like there's a lot
Yeah.
of the secrets
Yeah.
right
Yeah,
there.
Richard knows all. I know. He knows more than I will ever know about this theater.
Yeah,
He knows
that's
everything
okay.
about it.
Well, we're about at the point where we have to do the song of the week.
Yes, we're about to surprise you with something. Yeah.
I
So
don't know
every
this.
time when we do an episode, when it's just us, we
Mm-hmm.
kind of pick a song one of us has been vibing to. But when there's a guest, we let the guest pick the song.
Oh.
So it's just like something to listen to today on the car here, just a gut song. It's
no.
like
Doesn't have to be new, but it could be
something
could
you're
be a
affiliated
friend,
with or
doesn't have
not.
to
Just
be-
to say, hey, this is what I'm listening to or whatever. And we're just going to play 30 seconds of it at the break and then we'll come back.
yeah.
Do you know the thing that's coming to mind? It's
Is it a
really.
TikTok sound?
It's not a TikTok
Oh.
sound.
As long as it's on Spotify or something, so we can pull it.
You find it on YouTube. Is that
Yeah,
possible?
That'd be fine. I
Yeah.
guess.
So it's the Megamix from Starlight Express, the revival in London. Do you know about
I don't
this?
know.
I think
what,
I
don't
might
know.
know what
I don't
you're
know the
talking
words you
about.
just said.
So Starlight, I had a friend, shout out to Rebecca Michelson, who maybe will watch this. There's a revival of an Andrew Lloyd Webber musical going on right now in London called Starlight Express. Starlight Express is my favorite musical,
Okay.
other than Cats, which,
Are
know,
you gonna
obvious.
go see it?
I'm
The
begging
revival?
my husband to go for Thanksgiving. And we're currently in talks about it. We'll see if we go.
That's awesome.
To go to London to see this show. But there's a mega mix at the very end where they play all the songs. And so if you don't know, Starlight Express is a story about trains. They're all on roller skates. So
The trains are on
Yeah.
roller
the
skates.
humans,
The
are
humans.
playing trains on roller skates singing like 70s pop.
That's how I knew
Wait,
this.
wait, wait,
I
wait.
think I saw a TikToker make a TikTok about the revival.
Probably making
like
fun
talking,
about it. Like,
maybe, but
the people are playing with trains.
no.
No.
They are the trains.
They are
Massimo.
acting as
You have
trains.
to understand. They are
People
the locomotive.
acting like trains.
Yes.
And are they on like all fours on skates?
No,
is that what it
they're
is?
standing up.
I'm.
yeah, so it's a-
I thought they were like,
No.
hey guys. I'm like on all fours, like choo choo. I don't know.
Wait, okay. And this is actually a good like full circle moment because the second show I ever saw, my parents took me to Biloxi, Mississippi to see the second national tour of Starlight Express
Nice.
in a casino.
Yeah.
We loved it so much that we got tickets the next night. So I saw it 2 nights in a row. And my first job in New York, I worked with the guy who was in the cast.
Oh wow.
And he was like, he came up to me one day and I was talking about my favorite musicals and he was like, you were there? I was like, yeah. He goes, that was a horrible experience. And I was like scarred. As soon as he said that, I was like, oh no.
oh no.
All that to be said, I was listening to the Megamix this morning because someone sent me a video of the,
Mega mix.
yeah.
Okay.
I'll send it to y'all
Yeah.
so you can listen to it.
Well, yeah.
you need
I
it
need
now.
I need it. Yeah. Okay. So here's Starlight Express, the Mega Mix. If I'm saying that right.
Okay.
Here it is. Here it is.
Well,
Yeah.
it's the Megamix. Hang on.
Wait, we're
Allison
holding.
Bailey just texted me. That's fun.
Oh.
Shout out to our past
Shout
guests.
out. Shout out.
I'm like going through my, hold on. Oh, things are going to start playing. Hold on. My shorts are starting to play.
We're gonna cut to it like
Okay,
later.
you're gonna cut to it? Good,
yeah,
good,
yeah.
good. I
All
was
right,
like-
here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Okay, well, I hope you all enjoyed that. We actually listened to a part of it just now.
Yes.
I now understand what she means by people are trains.
Yeah.
They're not on all fours.
No.
I get it.
Which I realize now how confusing that might be to
Well,
the
I
lay
just-
person. I understand. I understand.
To a non-musical
to a non-musical theater person like ourselves.
I just thought, like, you know those, like, Transformer things you can
Yeah,
wear? It's
like-
like Autobots roll.
Andrew, like
And they're
rubber
just a
bots.
train instead.
Roll
Like,
out.
That's what I imagined.
I mean, I could picture a revival of Starlight Express with Transformers.
A revival of the revival as Transformers.
A revival of the revival.
Let's just go down that rabbit hole. Mackay, get on it. Come
Mackay,
on.
let's go.
Let's write it.
Let's write it, Mackay. You and me, man. Let's go.
I
man.
wanted to ask you
Yeah.
because even though like I do love musical theater. I've still never been to Broadway or seen a Broadway.
You haven't? I
seen
have.
a show on Broadway.
Really? I
have.
I've never been to New York, so
You wanna know which one
That's
I
right.
saw? You haven't been to New York?
never been to New York.
I did know that. I really want you to go.
I
We'll
do
go.
want to go. I want to go so bad. I want to
Guys,
eat the
okay,
Italian
what
food.
What
I wanna
show do we
see
want to go see? The three of us. We're going to take a trip. What
I
are we
mean,
going to go see?
here's the thing.
Let
If
Brendan
Newsies was up,
We'd be seeing Newsies.
or Dear Evan Hansen, I'd
I would see
fly.
Dear Evan Hansen. I've not seen Dear Evan
Although
Hansen.
if you want to
either,
see
so.
me cry, man,
Dear Evan Hansen.
when I saw the bootleg a couple years ago, it's the hardest I've ever cried in my life.
Oh, that's so
I was-
sweet. Just like
The whole time.
I know I'm a story person, and y'all are like, Amy,
no,
shut
no.
up.
No,
This is what we want.
Go.
I have a really like awesome Dear Evan Hansen story that I kind
Please.
of forget existed.
Please.
I was living in New York. It was going on Broadway. Excuse me. And I love Pasek and Paul, who wrote the music. So I went and I stood in the standby line, and I was like, I'm just gonna stand in the cancellation line. I went after work. It was like 30 minutes before showtime, whatever. And I'm just standing there. And I'm like front of the line and I'm by myself. And this guy walks up to me and he's like, hey, are you alone? And I'm like, this is terrifying. I'm like, yes. And he's like, well, listen, it's press night. My date didn't show up. Do you want to come with me to see the show? And it was the original cast. It was like right before it opened.
Oh.
So Ben Platt was still in it, all the 9 yards.
Yeah.
And I went and I was in like the third row center to watch Dear Evan Hansen for the first time,
Yeah.
original cast.
Mike Feist too.
Mike Feist as well.
Wow.
Incredible performer. And my boss of 54 Below was sitting behind me, like the owner of the venue. And I just hear, like, I feel tap, tap, tap. And I hear, Amy Sapp? And he's like, and he goes, how did you get a better ticket than I did? And I was like, man, I don't know. It's just, I'm really lucky. So it was a really fun experience. But like really nice people like that in New York. Just this press guy was like, it was when I was very young in New York, didn't really have a lot of connections and
Wow.
just was like,
Sure.
I'm just going to shoot my shot and stand in this line. And it worked. So there
That's
you go.
awesome.
That's my,
So they have so I'm not even familiar with
Yeah.
this. So there's a line
some shows,
where if anybody cancels or doesn't show,
you can buy the ticket.
like once the show is started,
Either like it depends on the show. So Dear Evan
Okay.
Hansen, and it's like right when it opened and like in its heyday, they had a standby line. So basically same thing. If anybody
Yeah.
canceled their ticket right before, or they had any like my situation, press didn't show up, they could sell the tickets. But in my situation, he didn't like return the ticket. He just was like, hey, you're standing in the line, I'll just give it to you,
Yeah.
kind of a thing. Excuse me. And so they also have lotteries. It's like you do ticketing lotteries. So you can like, I have so many weird stories.
that's so cool. No, go for it.
I won the Hamilton lottery when I was an intern. So
Whoa.
when I think they still do it, where you can get a $10 ticket, and it's in the front row.
Nice.
And
Nice.
So it was right before the show opened. It was July of 2015. I was finishing up an internship at a travel website in New York, and it was raining. And I went one day, stood in the they did like a drawing, and it was Lin-Manuel Miranda used to do it. And so
Yeah.
I'm just like standing in this drawing, and like someone pulls out my name, and they're like Amy Sapp, and I'm like, that's me. So I got to see the original cast of Hamilton
Yeah.
while I was still a political science major. So after the show, I like went up to Jonathan Groff because you can like wait outside in stage door.
Yeah.
And I just remember I was so nerdy, but I was like, I'm a political science major, and like this was so historically accurate. And like I just loved it. And he was like, you're so
That's
cute.
awesome.
It was very precious. So all that to be said, enter the lotteries when you go to New York.
Yeah.
It's like you
Do
can
the
win
lottery,
them.
Brendan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like enter. Well,
Yeah.
the theater lotteries.
Theater lotteries,
But to
yeah.
answer your question, away from my story, we would see what we would. I would want to take you to see probably. Actually, I'd want to take you guys to see Anne Juliet. Have you heard about Anne Juliet?
No.
So it's like a pop 2000s musical. It's Romeo and Juliet rewritten to the music of Max Martin. You know who Max Martin is?
Oh my gosh!
No, you know that is great.
What?
And Max Martin is like on the creative team, like put it together, and it's Backstreet Boys, it's Katy Perry, it's Kelly Clarkson. It is. But look at this, guys.
It's Romeo and Juliet.
But it's Romeo and Juliet.
That's awesome.
But it's rewritten. It's what if Juliet didn't die? That's the whole shtick. It's like, what would happen if she didn't kill herself and she actually said, spoiler, if you've never seen Romeo and Juliet,
Under a rock. Yeah.
It's spoiler alert, what would happen if she survived? And then it's set to his music. It is, I've got chills.
Whoa.
So it's like
walking.
So it's like
I'm a
it
walking
starts
advertisement.
after Romeo and Juliet starts.
So it like,
essentially?
if I remember, I only saw it once. I saw it like 2 years ago when it came out, a year or two ago. If I remember correctly, it like starts and she's like, I'm gonna like kill myself. And like, she's like singing really sad. I can't remember what song it is. It's on Spotify. And basically like Anne Hathaway is a character and Shakespeare are like two characters in it. And they come out and they're like, wait a minute. And Anne Hathaway, Shakespeare's wife, is like, but hey, what if we rewrote this? And she's like, here's the pen. Why don't you rewrite your story? And then it's that's the musical.
Yo.
It's so good.
That's actually really cool.
Isn't that cool? I know. And again, I'm a walking advertisement for Broadway. Like, it's pitiful how much I know about theater.
That's awesome.
But anyways, I take y'all to see that.
Yeah.
No.
I would definitely go see that.
I would go see that too.
Yeah.
The only show
Kelly Clarkson? Yeah.
Kelly Clarkson, let's go.
Yeah, I'll be there.
The only show I've seen on Broadway, because I was in New York one time when I was in high school. It was my choir. We were not the Flex, but we sang at Carnegie Hall when I was a junior in high school.
I've not done that.
And yeah, it was pretty cool. But while we were there, we got to do the sightseeing and stuff. Went on a boat, went around the Statue of Liberty.
You have to.
And one thing that we did, because almost everyone in choirs and musical theater and whatever, not me, but we went to go see Anastasia on Broadway.
Aww.
And it was really cool. And I'm not a musical theater person, but like it was really cool.
That's really
It was real. And I don't know if you know anyone that was in it or not, or know of people that were, because this was 2018. So I don't know what kind of cast that was.
I think if that was still the original, I don't know Derek Klena, but I knew.
Yeah, Derek was there.
Okay, I knew the gentleman who followed him. I was like, he was in one of my concerts. Zach Atkins was in one of my shows. But I do, and you can include this if you want or not.
Do it.
Yeah.
What I'm about to say, it's kind of funny that you said Anastasia, because I was like, that's ironic. The person who originated Anastasia, like the movie, sang at my wedding. So she's one of my dear friends. Yeah. So one who like originated like all of the songs that they do. So that's like my Anastasia connection is she's like really a good friend of mine. And so I called her and was like, will you sing at my wedding? And she was like, yes.
Your wedding sounds stacked. Her, Allison Bailey.
Yeah.
Cool wedding.
It was a fun wedding. It was like it was
She's like, I can't deny it.
It was kind of, I had just met y'all when I got married. So it was like, if it had been like 6 months later, you guys all would have been there. I know. Sorry.
It's all right.
No.
It's all right.
But anyways,
so
actually, Anastasia's just a sweet musical. I didn't really know a lot of people in it at the time, but I did see it a few times when I was living there.
Yeah, Derek, it was actually really cool. After the show, everyone left and we stayed seating up in the balcony.
Yeah.
And some of the cast came up and talked to us. I don't know how we did that or how that happened. Looking back, I was like, that was a crazy trip. Like we did all this stuff and I'm like 17 or 16.
That's
cool.
That's what we would call like a talk back.
Yes, it was a talk back. Yeah,
I bet someone like in your school like knew some. That's like a really special thing when that happens.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like half the cast came out and it was really
awesome.
That's so cool.
And I used to remember the name of the lady that was
Christy
Anastasia.
Altamere.
I think it was her.
She was the original. So she's a dang delight. She's a sweet girl. I think it
was her.
Yeah.
I think it was Derek and Christine.
Christy. Yeah, she was the original. Yeah.
I want to say it was him.
That's cool.
She's super sweet.
It was cool.
I'm just now remembering, I saw Lion King when it toured to Detroit, but I cried because they didn't warn me about them all coming down the aisleways. And I'm a child, and I'm sitting on the aisle
how old
seat.
Are you?
So you just like hear the music.
8.
This was last year, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm like 8 years old, sitting on the aisle, or my dad was like, my family has the like aisle seats.
Sure.
All of a sudden, this like 8 foot tall person on stilts is walking, and I'm like, so like freaking out. It's like a story of my family because I started losing my mind, and then like eventually I was fine or whatever. But like,
it's scary. They're huge,
especially when you're a child and nobody warns you.
Yeah, and you got
my
these
gosh.
big puppets coming down the aisles. It's terrifying.
Yeah, I also when I was a kid was obsessed with Peter Pan, so my parents would take me to see local productions of Peter Pan. It's not Broadway, but
But that's a cool thing. Like local theater is great theater. Like I've seen some crazy good local theater, especially here in Tennessee, that like rivals stuff I've seen on Broadway, off Broadway, LA. Like you be just talent. Broadway does not always necessitate.
yes,
Take this out.
Yes.
Don't say it. Don't include this.
You've said you don't have to include this or not include this like 10 times.
I know. I've said too much.
It's funny though. It's a good because I did want to talk about Only Hope today because that's a good transition.
We got to talk about Only Hope.
Yeah, because
we're good on time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
she's
it's
fine.
really cool that you were able to help us get Cassidy and Brian in the pod. So
Yeah,
along with
so
Allison,
cool.
obviously, but
Allison doesn't count. No,
no, Allison was awesome.
She
That was
doesn't
so
count.
much fun.
That's what they said.
That's
In their words.
She said it.
Their words.
but I'm just curious.
Yeah.
From start to finish, how much from first conversation with Jordan or whoever to first show, how long in time that was, and where
put
most
that on, yeah.
and like where the meat of the work happened. Was it right before show, or did you put a lot of work ahead of time, then wait? Like I'm just curious the process on that.
So for Only Hope, a musical tribute to Walk to Remember, for that production, I was one of the executive producers, but I worked with Jordan Ross Schindler, who was one of my collaborators in the project, who it's his brainchild. So he had already done the show many years ago out in LA. Kind of backtracking. So I, listened to the Somerset growing up, loved their music, met Brian Logandales, the lead singer, in May of last year. And I was chatting with him and he was like, well, hey, you work in theater. I have a friend who just moved here. I'd love to connect you to. And I was like, oh, great. Sure. That'd be wonderful. So Brian connected me with Jordan. Jordan and I go get coffee over here at Frothy Monkey in like June or July of 2023. And we started talking about Only Hope in like September, seriously, August or September. And we got dates on the calendar in September. And so the show was April of 2024, this past April. So we started working on the show like casting in September. So we we were already like working on the show. Now, obviously we weren't like working 40 hours a week on it.
Yeah.
And I've got to give a lot of credit to Jordan because it's his brainchild.
Yeah.
I'm really just like support for him on that show. But in terms of like talking to casting directors, I know we posted up in it was like Backstage, Actors Access. Like we went for some big publications to get the word out there for auditions.
Yeah.
And I believe we talked to Brian and Janelle, our leads. We like talked to them in September and we're like, please clear if you can, like we want y'all to lead. Cause they led the production way back before I was ever involved with the project in LA. So we really wanted, and we flew them in, we put them up. And then Elmo Zapp was the music director. And he also has been with the project for a very long time. And he and I actually worked on a show together in New York. So he and I had worked together on, he remembers us working on 54 Sings Hanson, but I'm pretty sure we worked on 54 Sings Jonas Brothers together. I think he was my bass player for that show. But like very similar. So it's like, I get it.
Yeah.
So he remembers that. I remember the other, but anyways, so I had worked with him already. So, it was easy to work with Elmo again, before the project started. And it was just really special to get to work on it. But the bulk of to answer your question, the bulk of the work, I would say really happened in those 2 or 3 weeks leading up to performances. We were rehearsing, every single day of the week. We took off, I think part of Saturdays and Sundays. We were rehearsing every single day. Our cast was crazy good. They were so talented.
Such a cool cast.
I mean, it was so cool. And to work with, you mentioned Cassidy, to work with Cassidy Pope, like it's a gift to call her a friend now, but I mean, she's such a legend in her own right.
Yeah, she was in Hey Monday.
She was in Hey Monday.
Yeah.
I mean, I told her this in rehearsals when I first met her. I was like, listen, Candles got me through a major breakup in high school. So like, I'll say it to her again. I'm like, girl, it was so good. So to get to work with people that I had looked up to for so long, and now I'm like honored to say they're peers.
Yeah.
That was probably the biggest gift of that project. And working with Jordan was phenomenal because he has been in the business a bit longer than me. So while we're close in age, it was cool to kind of like learn some tricks of the trade from him, especially with writing, because he's such a phenomenal writer.
Yeah.
But it was a very special project, and the two of you were instrumental in making that show happen
a lot
here.
of fun.
I mean, like,
It was fun.
we can't premiere a musical in Tennessee without like help, like, technical direction and audio and stage. I mean, Massimo, you were running around like crazy helping all my cast. Like,
it's like tape,
get mic tapes on,
I gotta tape you.
and and the two of you became just an integral part of that cast and team. So that was such a gift for me.
Actually, Burke, I just commented on Burke's post of something, and he's like, "Dude, tell everyone to say hey."
He liked that one thing. He
did.
He's
great.
such
a man. I was like, "Let me know when you're back in town." He's like,
seriously, you let him know whenever you're in LA because he will hit you up. Like,
because I go to LA all the time. Yeah,
I know, we're all just like hanging out in LA.
Yeah.
But and that project, it was such a gift. It was the first time I'd ever done something like that, because a lot of my producing experience has been like one night only concerts, or I'm an associate producer for new musicals a lot of the time. So I work under a phenomenal collaborator named Allison Bressie, and we just premiered a new musical by Alex Sage Oyen and Nora Monahan back in October of last year, called Tyrants. That was a very cool show.
That's cool.
So that's really my experience, is like, I help support people. So it was the first time I got to kind of be in charge, which is very daunting. Like,
did you like it though, or is it like, no, this is for me?
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky. I had like a collaborator with, like, Jordan and I were kind of equally in charge, if you want to say that. But it gave me the confidence to want to executive produce more.
Yeah.
And there's a project I've been working on for like 3 or 4 years that finally has some movement that I'm an executive producer on. So
that's awesome.
Fingers are crossed. I'll have more to tell y'all next time I come on the podcast.
Yes.
So it's but things like Only Hope, working here at the Franklin Theater, being around people like y'all all day long who are incredibly talented and like encouraging, that allows me to have the confidence to to push forward projects that maybe have stalled, or maybe I wasn't sure if I could really helm yet. So it's been a cool journey.
Yeah. I know. Maybe to loop back into everything we've talked about, the having that environment and that support system is insane. And I'm sure your parents, when you were going through all these different career shifts, and what feels like not a long span amount of time, like from high school just through college, it just you jumped around.
But it's funny.
But it's good to do that though.
Yeah, it didn't. It's so funny you say that, because my immediate like internal reaction is, well, I didn't change. Like, I was like, you know what I mean? It was like, well, no, I just did what was next. And it's funny because you're right. From the outside looking in, it was like, what is she doing? So I wonder, I've never asked my parents, like, did you ever wonder what I was thinking?
Yeah.
Just as an aside, like, I did get into law school in 2018.
Okay.
I got a scholarship to Pepperdine in Belmont. And I was like, really wanted to go to Pepperdine University for law school in California. And I just didn't feel like it was the right time to leave New York. Had been in New York for about 3 years at the time, and just took the LSAT. Wanted to see what would happen if I applied. And they really like recruited me, and I was like, nah. And honestly, only because it was very expensive. And I was like, I don't want to be in that kind of debt. And so I'm grateful I made that choice.
That's a great choice.
Yeah. I'm
just
really,
money-wise,
it was a great financial choice for me. But it is interesting. I think my parents, especially then, really wanted me to go to law school, because they were like, New York is great, but maybe you should get another degree because you are doing social media management. And I was like, but I love it. And they're like, okay, sure. No, they've been actually, I'm glad you said that, because this is my moment to say how supportive they've been. Incredibly supportive. And my husband as well has been incredibly supportive of me. When we were dating, he got a lot of questions of like, she works in what? Like Broadway? Like, that's strange. And he lived out west, so people really didn't know what that was. And he like really took the time to like understand what theater is, what Broadway is, what my career is, and how weird it is. And how it fluctuates a lot. And so having that support, like from a boyfriend and then a husband, it's like, I cannot stress. I'm glad you brought it up, because I cannot stress how important having that like support network is.
Totally.
Even as you get older, like, and now I'm very lucky. Like, I have a very good group of friends here who most of them, some of them are in the business, some are not. We've worked with one of them, like Thorne Wiggs. He and his wife are like Lydia are in my friend group, and are very like supportive members of my career, or friends who support my career and just my personal life. And having that supportive community allows you to then flourish, I think, in your professional
Totally.
life. You know?
Especially when you're figuring things out and like,
Yeah.
ooh, what's next? Like, I know I've had a ton of transitional periods. Like when I was getting out of high school and touring colleges, I toured the colleges my brother toured and I toured my own colleges. Didn't go to any of them, but it's beside the point.
That's okay.
I was like, well, I didn't want to go.
I didn't want to do that. No.
No.
Funny.
No.
But I was like, I just knew at that time, I was like, I can't just be a drummer. You got to do other things.
Sure.
And music had only been the only thing I'd ever known. And when it comes to trying things, it's like, okay, let's just try audio stuff. It's like the next
See what
step.
happens.
Like it just,
Yeah.
and now obviously it's kind of worked out.
Seriously.
Here.
Yeah.
So it's that support system that allows you to like do these things.
Yeah. It's
And
very
then
important.
whether it works or not, you tried it, and you know now's the time to do it. So.
Totally.
Listen, I'm a big believer in that. And I'm a big believer as well. And I've like alluded to it a lot today, but like taking chances, I think the only person that's going to like, the only way you will get a direct no immediately is if you just don't do it. Like, and I've kind of lived my life that way. And I've gotten a ton of no's in my career, like a ton of no's in my career.
Yeah.
And a couple yeses that really mattered. And so that's my biggest takeaway to everybody listening is especially in theater. If you're in music, I mean, we didn't even really talk about like my concert side of my life.
Yeah.
But like,
We'll hit on that right before we go.
okay, great. I was like, come on, we've time. It's fine.
We'll have time.
Yeah.
But the only person that's gonna say no the most is yourself. So like,
Totally.
you know what I mean?
Totally.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm my own worst critic. So
Yeah. Oh, same.
yeah.
Me too.
Quickly to get into the programming and stuff here at the
Hey.
theater. As a band, what would you, or as a programmer and like you people that book shows, what would you say to artists or bands that are trying to get booked at a
Ooh.
place?
Ooh, I love that
It's like what do you
question.
look for and say,
Yeah.
okay, this is the person that I can book somewhere.
That's a great question. So I booked
Yeah.
at two very different venues. So two diversely different audiences.
Yes.
And I think really something really important for me is quality. I mean, talent, right?
Okay.
Like that's, and I know that's almost like well,
duh.
duh. Like you're right. Like, duh. But seriously, like
Do they suck or what?
And I am, well, no, but I mean more so like the quality. And this is true, I think, in today's society. It's the quality of your recording matters. Just like I would say to an actor who's auditioning for something, the quality of your sound equipment matters. The quality of your camera matters. Because if I get an EPK, like an electronic press kit that has really old video, I might be like, oh, well, they haven't updated it in the last like 5 years. Do they still sound like that? Like I can't trust that recording anymore, in my opinion. So I would say the quality of your recordings matter almost as much as your talent matters, which I think like y'all as audio professionals and technical professionals probably like understand more than anyone.
Totally agree.
Anyone in this building. I think that's number one. Number two is chemistry. I really do. If I'm looking for a band and I'm watching their reel, or I go in person to watch them, I'm really watching their energy, because if they're not able to like connect with the crowd or like connect with each other, then I'm going to be like more weight. For example, incredible.
Okay.
Like y'all
Whoa.
have great chemistry, and I noticed that when I came to the show that we had here in at the theater.
Yeah.
Y'all's chemistry on stage was so palpable that it was like, well, yeah, no duh, they're getting booked. Like they work so well together, and it was the same chemistry I felt with y'all as a band for when we did Franklin Theater Sings the Music of Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, three of y'all knew each other. Yeah,
Although,
three of y'all.
Did you play with Mackay at all before that?
Your YouTube video one time.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's
so
not
like-
really.
So
that
like
doesn't
two
count.
of you knew each other really well, and so it was the two of these guys, Thornwigs on guitar, and then Mackay Kerr was music director on piano, and the four of you just were so synergistically aligned that like as a producer, as a booker, like let's say I put my booking hat on, I would rebook y'all in a heartbeat if I wasn't. Do you know what I mean?
We got
Like,
the job, Brendan.
so yeah, you got the job. You got the job. So for me, those are the two things that really matter.
Yeah,
And then my number one thing, and this you can't always tell in emails, you can't always tell online, but like I think kindness matters more than anything
Yes.
in this business. And I will. That is a hill I will die on. Is
Yeah.
that just be nice? If you can
Yes.
just be kind to one another, I would much rather. I've said this a million times in my career. If I'd rather work with someone who's kind than someone who's a genius,
Oh yeah.
because I just think it just shows your character more. And
Totally.
you can always work on talent. You can always work on skill. Kindness, you have to really
Yes.
Oh yeah.
You know?
When I think of people I want to work with, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
they're like, if there's two people and the one guy is like the most pro and he knows everything in the book, but he's kind of awful as a person.
Yeah.
And but there's this other guy that might not be as good, but he's like a bro and he can hang. I'm like, I'm gonna pick that guy.
I'm gonna pick that guy
every time.
Yeah.
Because especially if we're if we're a band on the road or something, it's like for 2 months plus whatever.
Be in a car with them.
I don't want to hang with that guy that's
Right.
being mean. Like
that's cursing out the crew or is like being mean to the waiter, even like little things like that. I genuinely pay attention to those things when I meet artists, and the people who are kind, I'm 10 times more likely to work with them.
Oh yeah.
Or if I book someone and they are really cruel to my staff, or I see that they're cruel to ushers, I'm really a lot less likely to book them.
Yeah, that just means they're a little fake at that point.
Well, that is what it is. But anyways, there's some of my philosophy, the hard hitting.
And
I love it.
Sometimes you don't really find out until after you've already booked them, and you go, "Well, but when you won't come back."
Well,
now we know before they got here.
Because sometimes you don't even talk to the artists until the day they show up.
Completely. And so
talking to agents and everybody
absolutely,
else.
and it's trial and error, and and some people, honestly, some people just have a bad day. So it's like you have to be able. I think too, you have to be able to parse out like, oh, that person was having a rough time of it, and then people who are just like not kind. I think, and I think I can tell the difference usually.
Yeah, totally. I think so.
Yeah.
I feel like you've dealt with enough people though, where it's also just like, okay, I kind of get it. Like I get the vibe that's being thrown out.
You can
right
kind of
now.
get the vibe, yeah. And like I always hope I give the right vibe off, but like sometimes I don't have a good day, so I'm sure I've ticked some people off.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Totally. Yeah.
We good.
I think that's everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, before we get out of here, at the end of oh my goodness, at the end of the podcast,
you want me to do it?
No, I'm good.
I know my throat too. I was like, it's gonna
it just came out of nowhere. Yeah. When we have a guest, we like to leave them with the last word and just let them promo anything they want. Shout out their socials. Leave them with any final words for our viewers and our listeners. So this is your time. Go nuts.
My time to shine.
Yes.
Look at the camera.
You do whatever you want.
Okay, I'll do whatever I want. Hi. Be nice to each other. That's number one.
Amen.
Amen to that. To myself. You can follow me on socials. I really just post on Instagram at Amy Sapp. Follow the Franklin Theater at Franklin Theater. That's my focus right now is the Franklin Theater and programming good stuff. I don't really go support your local theater community and go support the Green Room podcast. And my boys.
If we ever make like a sizzle reel, that's gonna be before the beat drop.
That will be.
And then just boom.
Go support Green Room.
Go through. Yes, 100%.
That's sick.
And that's all I got for you.
All right. You can find Amy on Instagram and everything. I'll even put a link to your website in the description of this one.
AmySapp.com.
Done.
That's
Love
me.
it. All right. Well, this has been the Green Room Podcast. You can follow us at Podcast Green Room on YouTube, Instagram, and the other things. No Apple Music. We're going to glide past that one.
We're figuring it out. Okay. Doesn't recognize my email, so I can't make an Apple ID account to post it. Okay. We're struggling.
Oh, no.
We're struggling. 2 seasons in a row, they still say no.
We're also struggling because my Facebook account got deactivated. I know this is another episode I mentioned it on, but
your Facebook deactivated.
Like I woke up one morning and it said, "Yeah, your password was changed."
And Zuckerberg said no.
It said it changed at like 8 a.m. And I'm like, I was definitely asleep at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
And because I woke up like 2 hours later, it said your password was changed 2 hours ago. I was like, well, I didn't do it. And then I couldn't get in.
Oh no.
Now I go to like send him stuff. I'm like,
like my account doesn't exist. Like he can't even look me up and find me. Like it's
scary.
Weird.
That's scary. Yeah.
If anyone knows a number to call or something,
I got nothing.
I really would like my account.
I would like
anyway, but you can follow me on Instagram on Massimo D Music, TikTok as well. I guess that's all I got now. That's really sad. I have a website too. I guess I'm gonna mention that now. YouTube as well. Massimo DiStefano. Got some fun stuff coming up the rest of the year. I don't remember when this one's going out, but I think there's a drum cover that's about to come out or just came out. You should watch it. It's really good. I don't think it's not a spooky drum cover though.
It's just a random
it's
drum
just
cover.
a good song.
Yeah.
Okay, Brendan, go.
Okay. B-Den Ayton on Instagram, More Weight Band, just like I've been talking about. now I got to think about when this one's coming out.
I know this is later.
Keep your eye out. Follow us on Instagram. Come see us live. Come listen. Go stream the album that is now out again. Thank God. And yeah, come to the Franklin Theater. It's holiday season coming up.
It is.
Let's go.
We're gonna be busy.
Come see some spooky movies and then some holiday classics.
Some Christmas shows.
And come see a show. Amy probably booked it. So
That's right.
Yes.
There's a lot of stuff coming up at franklintheater.com. That's theater with an R-E.
That's right.
Yes, not ER.
Not E-R,
No,
R-E.
we're
Yes.
classy like that.
Yes.
We are.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Amy, for coming
thank you.
on.
Oh, you're so welcome.
This has been
Thanks for
so
having me.
good.
Thank
Been
you.
fun.
And we'll catch you guys next. There's only 2 more episodes in this regular season. There is next episode.
And then we're in the playoffs. No, I'm
And
just kidding. The way you worded it, regular
And in the
season.
the
final
regular.
four.
We're like,
I
we'll
know,
have
I'm
our
just-
holiday specials.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Ooh, holiday specials.
Yeah, we
Who do you
will.
have on? Is it a surprise?
it is a surprise.
It is.
Okay.
Surprise.
Is it Santa?
Although they already know.
Yes. You know what? We're having Santa.
We are.
I knew it.
We're having Santa.
Mrs. Claus is going to make us hot chocolate during it too.
It's just Nathan.
Is it just
though.
our boss in a Santa costume?
It's just,
Yeah.
It's just Eric.
It's just Eric in a Santa costume.
He's like, hey guys,
Hey guys.
got some eggnog for you.
Here's some eggnog.
That'd be rough.
That's so funny.
We'll come back next week. I think next week is our final episode of the season where it's just us.
Yes.
So if you want to hear us bicker some more, you come on down. And then the last episode 30, will be with a very special guest if we can get him. It's
Yes.
not booked at this time, but
Yes.
we're hoping he comes on. And then we'll have a Halloween and Christmas one. So
Yeah.
stay tuned, and we'll catch you on the flippity flip.
Peace.
Ciao.
Bye.